Welcome, everyone, to the webinar series on purposeful leadership in the AI era. I'm your host, Leela Paul. I'm a leadership and team coach, and I also help professionals to have those different learning experiences that they're looking for in order to be able to lead with purpose. I am very pleased today to be joined by Hana Brellah. And this is a very special guest for you. You are in luck. She is the CEO and founder of the Find Your Voice by Hana Brellah, and she is an international leader, keynote speaker. And I am very pleased to have her here today, too, because we're going to be talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart. She's the creator of the Multicultural Intelligence framework. And that brings us to our topic for today. So, we are going to be covering a lot for you, and hopefully, you're in for the ride. And I would like to give her the floor as we talk about leadership from artificial to multicultural intelligence. Hannah.
Welcome as well on my side. And thank you so much, Liloba, for inviting me to bring this topic that we rarely talk about when it comes to leadership. But today it has to stop and we need to shine some light on it. When it comes to leadership today, it's a very important topic. And I believe that our audience are very much in touch with leadership, whether as leaders, as emerging leaders, or would like to go into leadership, or even about self-leadership. And when we look at our life today, let's face it, artificial intelligence is everywhere. It's the dominating intelligence today. It's making our world going very fast. But by focusing on leadership and artificial, we might have overlooked something and intelligence that is very important. And that's why today I would like to share this with you. But before that, and before really moving into this topic, what's really important is to really get to know you. So please write on the chat, what's your name and where are you connecting from so we can get to know you better and maybe you can join us in this immersive experience.
And I'd also like to add, if you would like to have this in closed captions, you can do that by looking at the bottom of your screen to the right. Click on those three dots that says more, and if you see CC, you can view in closed captions. So happy to see who's joining us today in the chat. Thanks for joining us. All right, looking for those names, and also you can share the location where you are. Great. I see Regina is joining us from Los Angeles. Thanks, Dr. Zurbano. And Jess Vogt is here too. Tatiana, Daniel, nice to see everybody. Thanks, Claire. Hi, Yana, nice to see you too. All right, great. So as you enter the room too, go ahead and keep your mobile phones handy. We're going to be asking for your thoughts really soon. All right, back to you, Hannah.
Thank you, Diloba. Now that we got to know you a bit better and seeing that we have a quite diverse audience joining us from different parts of the world, I believe that the next question would make sense to you guys. So, hearing the word multicultural, what word, what idea comes to your mind when you hear multicultural?
It's good we give you a moment to think about it. I hope something washed over you as you thought about it too, maybe even before you entered this room. I'm going to have you take a look at Mentimeter. You're going to answer this in the next slide. So go ahead and pull out your photograph or whatever it is. If it's your camera that you're going to grab the QR code scanner, you can look on the screen here, or you can go to menti.com if the QR code doesn't work for you and enter that code. I see two people have already responded. Great. All right. When you hear the word multicultural, what word comes to you?
I'm seeing some words coming in already. Great. Feed us with your words, guys.
And yes, you may respond more than once if you like. If you're just entering the room and joining us, use your phone to join us on Mentimeter. I see some insightful responses building here too. Coexisting groups, openness, precious.
I still see diversity in the center. And you know, guys, that when you see a big word, it means that many of you have written this word. And we're going to get back to it afterwards.
Higher productivity, variety, ethnicity, belonging,
Dimensionality, very interesting words. Multiple perspectives. I'm seeing the word
ancestry.
perspective coming in quite often.
Saw ancestry up there too.
Opportunities. Keep that word. We're going to get back to it later.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
Yes, definitely. So this was for us, for you as an audience as well, to really get to know a bit your feedback and what's your thought when it comes to multicultural. But actually, what I would like to bring you as well is that even though when it comes to multicultural, we think quite often on diversity, maybe on countries, on flags, but that's not exactly the multicultural intelligence I want to talk about. But in order to talk to you about multicultural intelligence, I would like all of us to come back to a special moment in our life. Remember when you went for the first time to school in a classroom? You were just a child. Maybe your feet were barely touching the ground, and you learned for the first time reading and writing the alphabet, the A, B, C, D, E, and so on letters. When you learned those letters, very quickly those letters became words. The words became phrases. The phrases became meaning. And the meaning became the first intelligence you carried to the world. That's how we formed our first intelligence as kids. But in order to stay in this immersive words and intelligence by the words, you might have other type of intelligence in your life that are not necessarily connected to the alphabet or to the words. So back to you again. When you hear the word intelligence, what word comes to your mind? What are the intelligences that you think about? And what does intelligence even mean to you? We're going to do another round of Mentimeter to really get your insights on what does intelligence means to you.
I can feel my curiosity.
Knowledge. I'm seeing also some answers on the chat. Feel free also to scan the QR code and bring as much insight as possible so we can all see it together and comment on it together. Self-conscious, very interesting. Intellect. What else? I'm seeing 20 people in the room and only 4 responses. So
Feel free, go for it.
for those who didn't grab their phone, their mobile phone yet, grab it now and share your insights.
We'll give it 30 seconds. Now's your chance to share what the word intelligence means when you think of it.
Seems some answers are not going through anymore. Maybe you need to leave and scan the QR code again and share your answer.
Ah, there we go.
Okay. Awareness, experience, rationality, complexity. I love it. Smart small talk. Interesting. Curiosity, information,
Maturity, depth, aptitude,
meaning making, intellectual. We do have a lot of insights. And this, what we see from your answers, guys, is that intelligence can mean so many things. And intelligence is not limited just to words and what we learned at school and the ABC and the alphabet. There are multiple intelligences out there. Some of them are dominating more than others, but every one of us carry intelligence, our own intelligence, and intelligence is everywhere. Now, I think I would like to move on, Eliloba. So from the intelligence and from the multicultural, now let's move to the intelligence that is today dominating our world. And I would like you to remember that single moment at school when you learned the alphabet, where A, the letter A, was dominating the alphabet. And somehow, after all those years, we come back to that A, the same A we learned at school. But this time, it's not just A, it is AI. It is artificial intelligence. Is it the one and only intelligence that is dominating everything right now? Our workplace, our job, our opportunities, our daily life, sometimes even some conversations with AI. So we are living in this world completely immersed with AI. But while we are immersing with AI, let's also face it, not everyone is adopting artificial intelligence the same way. There are some differences. Maybe it's a matter of generation. Maybe it's a matter of regulation. Maybe it's a matter of digital savviness. If we are more digital savvy, then we have higher chance to adopt AI. And the question that we need to ask ourselves is, are we really surfing the wave of artificial intelligence? Or are we left behind? So we become irrelevant, not only our job and careers, but also in our everyday life. Because whether we like it or not, artificial intelligence, AI, is a reality. It's here to stay, and it's here even to disrupt even more wherever we live and whatever we do. But by focusing on this artificial intelligence and AI and this famous letter A of the alphabet we learned at school, we completely forgot another intelligence, the M. We also learned at school the letter M. And MI is the intelligence that helps us surf in that wave of artificial intelligence, learning us read in the rooms, read in people, read in business situations. So instead of focusing just on the technology that is brought by artificial intelligence, then we know how to adopt it and how to thrive in a life and in a world that is fast changing. And that's why MI, multicultural intelligence, is really important. But I have to tell you also something is that multicultural intelligence and this framework that I've been creating has always been existing. It was always there, always in the air. And your insights about the question of multicultural and the question of intelligence proved it. The problem is not that it was not existing. The problem is that we never named it. We never named it as an intelligence that we can learn, apply, and teach so we can accelerate the way we work, the way we lead, the way we innovate. We were decoding it maybe by instant, losing so many years trying to figure it out, like I did. And I'm going to share my personal story a bit later on. But now, what I would like to tell you is that you might think that this is philosophical, but why am I? Why multicultural intelligence matters? And why now? Why, particularly in the world we live today, multicultural intelligence became crucial, became the power we all need right now. Let me bring the reality that we all know. We live in a world that is focused and demanding globalization. Global brands, global job opportunities, moving around the globe, but also through social media, globally connected. Every one of us can take a social media, go to Instagram, go to TikTok, go to LinkedIn, and you share your voice out there and it becomes global. But in this globalization, where it's demanding to be all of us to become global citizens on one side, there is something that we have not to forget. That while we are going towards the globalization, having those unique differences and nuances required by localization are more important than ever. So somehow we live in a world where we are stretched. Globalization on one side, localization on one side, artificial intelligence stretching us also between globalization and localization. And we kind of disconnected and lost ourselves. Because the question we need to ask ourselves between globalization and localization is how to fit in between. Do we need to change so we become more global citizens or becoming more globalized when it comes to business opportunities and workplace? Or do we need to stick to our nuances as localization? And if the answer is not about changing, then how can we adapt and dance between both? And the answer to this is multicultural intelligence, because multicultural intelligence helps us perceive and thrive in a world focused on globalization, by while still reading and understanding differences and uniqueness and nuances when it comes to localization. Now, let me move to the other question. It has been philosophical, but we are getting there. We are getting a bit more tangible. But what is multicultural intelligence, MI, to you? I have shared some few lines, but so far we got your insight about what does multicultural mean and what does intelligence mean. But what about multicultural intelligence? And I think right now it would be good also to have some of the insights on the chat, right, Lilova?
Let's go ahead and do that. And also, just to make sure everyone knows too, the Q&A is open. So you can leave your thoughts in the chat. You can also go to the Q&A. So that's down also in your Zoom panel. Go to more, go to Q&A. If you start thinking, but there are a couple of things that I've heard here, and it always triggers something for you. It brings up your engagement from future times, future lived experience, past lived experience. There's something that you don't want to relive again and again. What is it this time that makes this one different? I'm talking about the future. I'm talking about now. What would you like to put in there for questions? And let's talk to Hannah about that a bit later too. So I'm checking out the chat here too. Any thoughts there on multicultural intelligence? Your comments as well are most welcome.
Guys, don't be shy. Huh? The best presentations go both ways. We're going to make you speak, no worries, with your words and with your thoughts on the chat. Any insight we got from the chat, Liloba?
One just popped in from Flora and also from Paula. From Flora, socioeconomic status, religion, race all create a network that form our beliefs and create our MI. I like how you said our MI.
I love it. We
From
are
Paula.
already owning it. Great.
Yeah,
On the
nice. And
hearts
thanks
as
for the
well.
reaction too. All right. Paula says multicultural intelligence can come down to very simple and yet important details. I had to sort out when someone from a different culture was actually saying yes or no. Yeah, details.
Very good example on decoding the yes or no. And I would like to keep this idea because I will get back to it about decoding languages. So I think we will move on, Liloba, and I will go to the next slide. And here I would like to share with you a personal story. I am a pure multicultural intelligence product. Why? Because I spent more than 20 years in the corporate world, in the pharmaceutical industry, living, then leading across different continents, different cultures. And I can tell you that I have seen the advantages and the disadvantages to fit in, to be understood, but also to be able to decode all those stories. I had to understand new business language. Every time I was changing country, changing position from a local position, I'm originally from Algeria, to French speaking Africa, to Middle East, ending up leading Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I have to tell you that I lost so many years of my career and of my life trying to decode by instant some of the business languages, some of the business models in order to work better, to lead better, and to innovate. And then I realized that can we count only on our instant? What about all those years that are lost? Can we transform, or can I transform this lived experience trying to decode and fit by instant a capability that somebody else has not to lose the time like I did, but apply it, learn it, and even teach it so you could grow faster in your career, make faster transitions across countries, across cultures, but also innovate faster locally, localization, and how to scale innovation. And that's what guided me actually to move from a lived experience to creating a multicultural intelligence framework. And this is what I would like to go back to my slides, Siloba, if you can share them back, because I would like to explain to our audience about the move from a lived experience to the MI framework. So as I told you, after so many years, I was also thinking, and this idea, I had it at 1 a.m. in the morning. For those who know me in the call, they know that I am a night owl, and most of the ideas come to me at night. So I said, how can I turn this lived experience to something tangible that everyone, wherever you live, whatever you do, can apply to accelerate the way you work, you lead, you innovate, and even scale innovation? And that's the moment multicultural intelligence came to my mind, because I said, instead of having a buzzword, multicultural and diversity, a nice to have word, how can we make it tangible so we can get value out of it? And based on that, I worked with it. Now I'm giving it also as a signature talk, as a keynote speaker. I wrote an article about it that was published by Brains, and there is a lot of work that was coming afterwards about it. But this is the moment where the lived experience sometimes can inform building something tangible to add value. And now you might ask yourself, after this why and philosophical and this story, what it is. What is actually multicultural intelligence? So multicultural intelligence here, I divide it into three different abilities. You can call them levels, where you have level 1, level 2, and level 3. Those are things maybe we are doing, but maybe we are not doing enough. And the level one of becoming multiculturally intelligence is not just to know, identify, or understand differences, but is to acknowledge them, recognize them, consider them in decision making at work and in everyday life. And here I would like also to stop for a moment because the multicultural intelligence I'm talking about is not necessarily just about countries or cultures or countries and flags, but it is about business model, market realities. It is about thoughts, beliefs, behaviors. I believe someone wrote it in the chat early on. And it is also about generations. So usually those differences, and when we don't take the time to acknowledge them, they are the source of conflict. They are the source of misunderstanding. And they are the source as well of judgment. So why don't we spend this time acknowledge those differences and really bring those differences forward and be able to show them, to express them? Let me give you something about the crucial reality we are in. When we look at EY Barometer 2023 report, 75% of employees worldwide feel excluded. And surprisingly, 56% of them don't show all their facets. So they hide a big part of their identity, the differences. So there is a fear of showing the differences. But if we don't show our differences, then we don't give a chance to other people to acknowledge it. That's why level one of multicultural intelligence is to spend the time and the effort, not only to know, understand, but acknowledge differences. But also in a business world, when it comes to business models, thoughts, behaviors, and especially generations. When we look at artificial intelligence, clearly the level of adoption of artificial intelligence or digital savviness can also be different according to generations. And we need to consider that to become multicultural intelligence, because our differences make us unique and they bring an added value to our business, to our work, and to the way we lead and innovate.
So before you move on to number two, just adding in here as well, one of the comments from the chat from Regina Zerbano, we see having the awareness of and acceptance of others and how they view and convey their perspectives makes our MI increase. That perspective of thinking about and intelligence increasing. This makes a lot of sense with acknowledged differences. Also, Jazz mentions collated consciousness across ethnicities as well as national spirits, so that collective understanding. There's a lot that is hidden to others if they don't take the time to dive deeper into that multicultural intelligence. So Jazz is also saying here, one last thought. Interestingly, in the UK, MI means military intelligence and has different national and international levels, like MI5 and MI6. So that's an observation as well. I would come back to your previous comment, Jazz, here with the collated consciousness and the different understandings, even with military intelligence, when we see things that are happening in our world today, we have to absolutely understand that there aren't solutions only with military, and that understanding, the more we have the understanding across different nationalities, the fewer military conflicts we need to have. So at least I think I'll stick to the MI with the multicultural intelligence. But thanks for the observation for sure there.
And those are very interesting observations. I think there are some observations coming in, and we might cover them later on as part of the comments and the questions. And I believe also what you mentioned, Liloba, right now is very important. In order to acknowledge differences, there is a co-ownership. There is the spending time acknowledging differences of others, but also spending time and daring showing our differences. Because if we don't show them, how can we expect that other people will understand them or even acknowledge them? So let me move to the second level, or the second ability, level two, is that acknowledging differences is good, but it's not enough. Remember that differences could be a source of misunderstanding, misalignment, judgment, even conflict. So once we understood those differences between business realities and mindset and generations, we need to make a conscious decision and choice to focus on commonalities. What unites us? What are our shared goals? What are our shared challenges? What are the challenges that we are facing together? And what are the common opportunities? Focusing on commonalities helps also looking at the bigger picture after, of course, understanding differences. And I'm going to give some examples from business. I have been myself a leader across different countries and regions, but the most important was not the country or the flag. The most important was the business realities. Some markets, for example, have a growing markets. Some markets have a perception about some product that is very low. So the level of adoption is different. The sales model, selling directly through e-commerce or customers or selling through distributors, make it very different. But does it mean that we cannot identify common goals, common challenges, and common opportunities? We still can, because we have acknowledged differences, but we still need to build a strategy that fits for everyone. And if we focus on commonalities, then we can build alignment and we can move the business forward. Now, let me move to level 3. Why do we need to acknowledge differences in the first place? And why do we want to focus on commonalities? Because at the end of the day, being multiculturally intelligent is seeking to build consensus. Finding those alignment, finding through common opportunities, what's the way forward as a group? And how can we make decisions as a group? Of course, in order to make decisions as a group and building consensus, sometimes it requires some trade-offs. If you want to seek perfection, it might take a lot of time. But in order to build consensus, there is a certain level of certainty that we need. And that's why my question to you guys, the next one, and I would really love if each one take your phone and the Mentimeter in a moment. But what's important is that I would like to understand from you, what's the percentage of certainty do you need to decide as a group? Think of a working situation you had with your colleagues in the office. Think of your colleagues based in different markets. Think even on your everyday life with your friends, and you would like to decide as a group where to go and have dinner. So when it comes to this percentage of certainty you need to decide as a group, do you seek for adventure and 20% of certainty is enough to move on? Are you torn and you feel tension between going forward, not going forward, and you are more on the 50% level of certainty? Or would you need a full 100% so you get safety and certainty before making a decision? This is more about seeing a bit where are you at. Of course, it might be different between a case and another, so feel free also to give more than an answer if you see that you might be adventurer in one type of decisions and maybe needing safety in another one. And here over to you, Leloba, for the Mentimeter moderation.
All right. So take a look again at your mobile phones and let's see what we think in terms of a group. Of what kind of decision, of what kind of certainty do we need? Okay, and it looks like it's hanging just a little bit. Maybe you want to come back to Luna's comment in the chat, and
Of
I'll just
course,
go
of
ahead and make
course,
sure that it loads
of
properly.
course. Let me try to write Luna comment because which one was it? Let me try Luna, understanding which curiosity respecting. I cannot read the full comment, so let me try. Or can you read it to me, Lilova? Let me try.
Sure, just a moment.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I can read it here. Understanding. So maybe I would read it out loud, so it's easier for everyone. Understanding with curiosity, respecting and decoding cultural differences reminds me of books I read during my university years on business etiquette and culture in the Middle East. MI might not have been the term used back then, but the underlying ideas surely resonate with those and viewed through today's MI lens. Even the expression Middle East reminds us how culturally loaded language can be. Thank you so much for sharing this observation. And you are exactly, Luna, you are exactly confirming what I mentioned before. It has always been there in the air, but we didn't name it in a way that it becomes a capability that we can learn, apply, and teach in order to accelerate innovation, leadership, and also go into those capabilities of multicultural intelligence. And now I started seeing answers. So
Yes,
we do
and
have.
making an observation here for everyone as well. As we look to the right of the chart here, you're still looking at 100% safety over to the right, which means that, oh, what percentage certainty? It means that you're not so certain. You need to be very, very, very safe. So this is the low risk group over to the far right, is what I want to note. Higher risk takers over to the left.
Exactly. And as I mentioned, you might see some aspect of your life where you would like to take risks and go for it, where you just need 20% of certainty to make a decision. And in some other aspects, maybe buying a house, you might need 100% of certainty to be able to make the decision. So it's good to see there are different answers. We do have, I think, 9 people who responded. Feed us, guys, with more answers. But we can see that the 3 percentages of certainty have their place. Sometimes it's about tensions, sometimes it's about being more adventurous, and sometimes it's about safety. I think I've seen a comment. I would like to read it. So, yeah. Can we come back to the slide before?
Oh,
Maybe
sure.
I moved. Yeah. No, this is a slide of the Mentimeter.
Hmm. And was there a comment there from Jazz?
I'm seeing a comment. Let me see the name. Yeah, Jazz. So I'd spread my energy 50% safety, 30% tension, and 90% adventure. And let's read what makes this difference for you, Jazz. So if it serves commonalities, I'd be more adventurous. Okay, very interesting. I've defined in recent presentations that ethics applied to AI is simply about what we want to be true to, ideally the highest common denominators of our humanity, specifically through compassion and conscience. If AI can advance and refine these, humanity as a whole can advance. If, however, AI creates the lowest common denominators, humanity can only descend and deteriorate. I love this comment, Jazz, and I think we will get back to it because I feel also there is a question. We might get back to it on the Q&A because we will give also more examples on how to apply MI in an AI world, and we will get back exactly to this humanity. What are the pros and cons of AI? But I could see that in terms of percentage of certainty, it is between the adventure, the tension, the safety, and I'm seeing more the 50-50 one. Why I did bring this question to you guys? Because what will follow is which type of rule or which level of certainty and percentage we need when it comes to multicultural intelligence, of course, based on my lived experience as a leader across different regions. So I'm going to move to the next slide exactly. And now I'm going to bring you with the MI 60% rule. 60% is slightly above the tension, but it's not as safe as 100%. And that's the message I wanted to bring to you when it comes to becoming multiculturally intelligent. I can tell you based on experiences leading multiple markets at the same time that if you want to wait for 100% certainty to move forward with international and regional decisions, then you will kill progress. Then you will kill your business. So in those situations, after building consensus, consensus doesn't come from perfection. It doesn't come from safety and 100% certainty. However, it still needs to have more things in common than half. I'll give you the same example of businesses. If we see that we have the same business opportunities across multiple countries in an organization that will fit 60% of the countries, move on, decide, go ahead. Don't wait for 100%. You might prioritize. You might have your key markets, some markets that are growing less. So the 60% rule means that you need to take decisions that are for multiple business models, multiple countries, multiple cultures. You need a certain level of certainty, but you need to learn to become multicultural intelligence. You need to learn to make a trade-off and move on. This is an example from a business, but this is also an example you can build to your everyday life. You know, sometimes as friends, if one wants to go eat Italian and the other one wants to eat Korean, for example, you will look at the majority. And if 60% are okay, then you will follow the majority. Except if you have the veto role and you would like to impose your goal. But in order to be multicultural intelligence, it's important to look at the majority, but still keep a bit this flavor of adventure and move on. Same thing for innovation. If innovation had to wait for perfection, we will never innovate. So how to innovate and how to scale innovation, and I will give some examples on the Q&A later, depend on the rule of 60%. And at this point, I would like to remind you on the 3 levels of multicultural intelligence or ability. First, start with investing the time, acknowledging differences, then focus on commonalities, then build consensus. And in order to build consensus, think of trade-offs and make the MI 60% rule your best friend. So we can all become more multicultural intelligent, wherever we live, whatever we do. So that's universal. Now let me move to MI in an AI world. And this is the moment where I would like to get back to your point, Jazz, I believe. How can we apply those abilities in an AI-dominated world? And let me give you examples. Acknowledging differences. Today, our level of artificial intelligence adoption is not the same. Some of us might be AI expert. It might even be your job. Some of us are just trying out. Some of us are in between. And some of us maybe do not believe in artificial intelligence because we see the danger that AI will steal our jobs, that AI will make us irrelevant, that AI will take our data, and we would like to keep our data private. But by understanding and acknowledging those differences, then we know how or to which extent we can adopt artificial intelligence by keeping our humanity, but also still adopting it because it can bring efficiency and it's here to stay. So the talk of leadership from artificial to multicultural intelligence doesn't mean that we are shifting away from artificial intelligence, but it means that multicultural intelligence can be an enabler to thrive in a world dominated by AI. That's about acknowledging differences. Now, when it comes to focus on commonalities, we do have some common opportunities with artificial intelligence. Who doesn't want to have more efficient work? Who doesn't want to not to delegate certain tasks that don't require a lot of thinking to artificial intelligence, so we free up our time doing bigger tasks, or we free up our time spending time with our loved ones? So deciding to focus on the common opportunities, the common goal, and the common challenges of artificial intelligence, like data privacy, it is important to apply MI in an AI world. And finally, to look at building consensus, and this is the moment I would like to get back to your point as well, Jazz, is about the ethical usage of artificial intelligence. So how can we put some guidelines across countries in order to use wisely artificial intelligence, in order to protect our data, in order not to lose our humanity and that the humanity will not deteriorate? This is the kind of consensus we need to make. There are trade-offs, but this is the consensus we need to make in order to adopt multicultural intelligence in a better and a more ethical usage of artificial intelligence. And I believe, Leloba, that has been also a previous webinar focused on ethical usage of artificial intelligence. Now, what I would like also to bring to your attention, guys, is that when we look at the World Economic Forum of 2023, it has been predicted that by the end of 2027, 83 million of jobs will be lost. 83 million. Next to it, 69 million will be created. but we still have a gap of 14 million. And the main cause of this losing jobs was artificial intelligence. It also means that multicultural intelligence is not here to erase artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence, whether we like it or not, will threaten our jobs. But it will require us to remain relevant, to adopt the change, to become multiculturally intelligent so we can adopt the change, reinvent ourselves so we remain relevant. And that's a bit the link that I wanted to show between how to apply multicultural intelligence in an AI-driven world. Now that you heard a lot about multicultural intelligence, but also I've seen the comments and where the conversation is going, I would like you to ask yourself one question. What is the one action you will do today to apply MI, multicultural intelligence, in your career or in your life? From the slides and presentation I have been sharing, from the comments, from the insights so far. So what's coming to your mind? What's one action you would like to commit to today? Not only to talk, but to apply multicultural intelligence, either in your career or in your life. I'm seeing some comments on the chat. It's great. Make sure that to write it there, because I believe you have enough space to write a sentence. So it's good to see where your thoughts are going, and we capture them, or all of them, in one slide.
And we have some nice comments in the chat while people are thinking about their action. There's an implication here in how you're asking this, Hana, about now. What needs to happen now at this moment in time as well? So I can feel that happening.
That's fantastic. I'm seeing now 60% rule. I love it. So I'm seeing some of the things on the chat. Guys, don't be shy. Feel free to add some of the actions on the Mentimeter part.
There are pieces of older conversations that are being updated as we're talking right now, too. We can feel these pieces like tolerance. There was a comment in the chat earlier where I could hear the word tolerance coming through, how much we need to take time to listen to those commonalities, and how much time do we afford to one another before judging. And I could hear tolerance coming through. So maybe there's some old ways that we used to work, just reminding us that it's not gone. And this isn't replacing AI is a message that I'm definitely hearing too.
That's really, really good to know. Guys, I would like to challenge you a bit. I think it's amazing that you are sharing things on the chat. But once we close the call, all what you wrote in the chat is gone. So if you would like to have one action you would like to commit to, feed it on the Mentimeter, because then we will group all those actions. And by reviewing your actions, it's the most important way to commit to do an action later on. So don't hesitate to feed us with your answers on the Mentimeter. Okay, so we started looking at some actions. Maybe
I
now I
needed to
need to wear
shake the
my
Mentimeter.
glasses.
I needed to shake the Menti a little bit, and now it's
Okay,
working.
maybe now I need to wear my glasses because I need to read it. Yeah. Pay our humanity forward. Oh, I love it. Engage with companies that are MI ready. More focus on common goal understanding. That's really good. And if they are not MI ready, they can be trained. We will talk about it later on. Use our human ancestral indigenous wisdom from the past to mature artificial intelligence in the future. Jazz, I love it. Jazz, you have been very active. Thank you so much for feeding out with all those comments and ideas. That's really fantastic. What else? What action you would like to do today to apply MI in your career, in your life? Guys, this is the most important moment of the presentation. It's not about the blah, blah I have been sharing, but it's about what do you take away with you? And that's why it's important to see what action, or even if you don't have an action to apply, don't hesitate to share it as well. Create awareness on MI. I think this is not stressed enough. Yes, totally agree. That's why we are building this concept and trying to spread the word about it. So looking at the time, we might want to move on, Liloba, from this. And what I wanted to share with you guys, as to have also time for the question and answers, is that we've seen this battle in leadership between artificial and multicultural intelligence. And we've seen that we are not here to replace artificial intelligence, but we are becoming multicultural intelligent to thrive in the world we live. So I will leave you with this last message of my keynote. If artificial intelligence changes the world, then multicultural intelligence changes you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. And I'd like to just share my appreciation to you for sharing this with us. And I know you've worked a long time in different industries, particularly in the pharmaceutical industry, and that this has been your life's work moving on to this next phase that you're in right now, this coaching phase. And Find Your Voice is such a powerful message to so many of us who are looking for clarity these days. So thank you very much. And I also wanted to just ask you, you're doing so many things. What are some of the other activities that you're up to now?
Yes, thank you so much, Loba. As you mentioned, I have a career behind me in the pharmaceutical industry, but with also a lot of leadership and communication. And right now, in the last year and a half, I created Find Your Voice by Hana Brellah, which has two layers. On one layer is a keynote speaker bringing some important topics in leadership forward, such as multicultural intelligence, but also strategy, leadership, and some business aspects. But on the other hand, I am also a public speaking coach, focused a lot on leaders and emerging leaders, because leaders and emerging leaders need communication to increase their leadership impact. So it's not just about learning how to present, but it's about how you can bring your voice forward, how you can speak up in the right rooms, in the rooms where decisions happen, in the rooms where you need an impact. And this is the work I do with my clients as leaders, whether preparing them to deliver their own keynote in conferences or preparing them to prepare a board meeting, business reviews, but also in everyday life, because some leaders would like to transition and go back to the job market. So how you can bring your leadership impact in a job interview. So there are multiple scenarios in life where a strong communication and confident and clear communication is really important. And this is the work I am doing with my clients. And this is the work I could do also with you in a partnership if we have some leaders in the audience and that would like also to work more on how to become confident speakers and how to increase their leadership impact through communication. And what about you, Lilova? What
I'm
are
also,
your
yes, I'm also
behind
working on
that?
the leadership side of things. So there are so many things going on right now, and the collaborations I think are the most inspiring. So creating platforms for people to come and share their voice. What do they need to say right now? And that they know others will benefit from hearing. So creating that space for others to come in. And I am working also on group coaching. So I do the individual coaching, which is my favorite, because then you get to talk about whatever you want. After the 15 years in the UN Refugee Agency, I had to focus only on professional coaching. But now it's the professional side, it's the personal side, it's the careers, what people want to talk about. So the whole person. And I think that means a lot to each individual. The group coaching that I'm doing right now, we're doing a lot on career transitions, changing sectors without starting over, and workshops as well. AI management, the first webinar you mentioned before too, the AI management, and that was the one that kicked it off. And we are sometimes managers of other people using AI, and how are we relating to those people? And making sure that as we keep reinserting our assets that are developed by AI into the enterprise stack, if we're working for large organizations, how do we ensure that that local voice is visible in the data? There are a lot of good things. I'm enjoying the work right now. So happy
Fantastic.
to engage with people on that too afterwards. Yeah.
Fantastic, fantastic. Liloba, I know that we are limited on time, but maybe we have time to take one or two questions. And yeah, having a conversations or having taken some questions would be good. Do we want to keep sharing the slides, or do we want to take one or two questions from our audience?
Yeah, I think we're just about doing well here. We are done with slides. So what are your thoughts? If you want to share any kind of feedback with us, please use this QR code. And we have three comments in the Q&A right now from Andreas. So thank you, Andreas, for sharing those. I see insight into MI is much faster due to AI. That's a nice comment. We can come back to that one. The next one is uncover synergies across cultures and business disciplines. And there's another comment in here from Andreas too. Today's AI content is dominated only by a fraction of the global society. Consider choosing regional AI versions than when you're exploring MI details. I
Very
like
interesting.
this. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting comment.
Any
It's really
reflections on
amazing.
what Andreas is saying here that you'd like to share briefly?
Yes, yes, I would like to. So would we like to keep the slides, or would we like to start the Q&A session?
Yeah, let's go ahead and start.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right. So Q&A here too. If there is anything else, I see a couple of comments popping into the chat. Let me just go ahead and throw out a question here too. You can comment on what Andreas was saying, but also one of these questions about globalization. You mentioned globalization before, but we absolutely see this promise that was unrealized with globalization. Can you speak more about that gap between globalization and what was promised and reality?
Yes, definitely. And I think it's a good point because at some point we are stretched with globalization. I believe that we are all going towards globalization, maybe at different speeds. As I mentioned, there are global brands, global goals. Now with social media, it's like open across everyone to share your word out there. But the challenge I see and the promise that for me has not been fulfilled with globalization is that when we look at data in workplaces, as I mentioned, EY Barometer 2023, we still have 75% of employees worldwide feeling excluded at work. So this is a reality. This is a reality. We live in globalization, but we are disconnected. If there is 75% of employees feeling excluded, then there is a problem. If 56% of employees cannot show all their facets and hide part of their identity or are afraid to show up their own identity, then we have a problem. And the problem, I think, is not just the globalization. The problem is that we are not managing to be both in globalization and localization at the same time. We are stretched in between. We are losing part of ourselves to fit into a global world, while not knowing that by keeping our nuances and differences, we can make this promise of globalization even better. And that's a bit the challenge that I see today. And that's what I see the place of multicultural intelligence, because you might take a bit more time to understand differences, but then you will gain on productivity. You will gain on creative ideas. You will gain on innovation when all voices are heard. So that's a bit what I see the promise of globalization, the disconnect, and how multicultural intelligence can bring the point of localization and globalization closer.
And if you have a moment before we're out of time here, could you just provide an example? Because I think sometimes it gets lost when you're talking about localization, and you even talked about the 60% rule.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could apply that 60% rule in an example on localization for us?
Definitely. I have multiple examples, but I think I will bring two examples from a business context. What I've been very familiar with is when it comes to performance tracking. You know, if you are a multinational and you would like to launch a dashboard or a report of performance tracking, then you have some regional or global KPIs, the ones that make sense in every market and globally. You might want to track your profitability, you want to track your business, you might want to track your market share. This is the part that is focused on commonalities. But then when you go to countries and you would like to have some local dashboards and local performance management and performance tracking, those KPIs are not enough. You need to look at nuances and you need to see who are the market that have a direct business model. You sell directly to customers. Who are the ones that sell to a distributor? And you need additional KPIs that are particularly different, acknowledging difference, in the localization. But in order to, let's say, implement a performance dashboard across a full region with multiple countries, you need to stick to the 60% common goals. And the 60% are the KPIs that make sense everywhere. So you can compare markets and you can still have a big picture. That's a bit the 60%. Now, I wanted to come back to another example, which is when it comes to pricing and strategic pricing. Let's say we have a brand and we have multiple markets. The price by market is not the same. Why? Because the purchasing power is not the same, because the market regulations are not the same. And I'm not talking just about pharmaceutical industry, but about any industry. However, usually you have what we call a corridor. A corridor is a range of prices within the 60% rule that applies to all countries. And each country can price locally according to the difference of the market, but with the goal of sticking to this range. This range sometimes is a bit flexible because it's adopting the 60% rule. So there are some trade-offs of profitability, but also of customer demand, but you're still adopting the localization and the globalization. Now, I would like to give an example about innovation. I know that we are out of time, but since we have questions about innovation, because innovation is also about sometimes choosing a pilot country, choosing a fast mover. You don't need to wait for all markets to do something to focus on commonalities. If one market is super innovative, then let it test. Once it tests, once it localizes, you can always scale up innovation afterwards.
All right. Well, I do believe we are out of time, and I want to thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you, Hana Brellah. And again, I'm Lilo Paul. I would like you to check out in the chat some connection information. We went ahead and shared our LinkedIn's. And if you enjoyed this session, tell your friends, your colleagues about the coaching services that we do. And if you would like to have some help finding your voice, you know one of the go-to people. I would like to thank everybody who showed up in the chat in particular, and the fact that you came to this webinar shows your interest on the topic, but also your willingness to take the next step for action. So, really happy to have you here. The next webinar in the series, Purposeful Leadership in the AI Era, is Who Decides? Feminist Leadership and the Future of AI. So we'll be having two people from Femtech Collective joining us, Tamar Kidane and Georgette Schutte. So happy to see you there. That's going to be in June 17th. And have a great day, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.